some coding session. I'm having some green screen issues. You can see like over over here, up here. There's a little annoying flicker, and also my hands looking a bit green. I don't know what I've changed, but I seem to be having problems with the green screen, and it's probably like the unevenness of the color. Uh, I've tried like switching the balance of the white and the color intensity, and maybe it's even just the way I'm sitting or what I'm wearing. Uh, I've like put myself very pale out there, and then too much color here. So auto seems to be the best option here, and color intensity. If I really take this down like this, and it's washing me out like this, and I'm sort of like black and white, and then move it up, and it's gradually fading out. But then I've gone a bit red, so I need to find like here it seems alright. And then the contrast, I'm sort of moving the contrast down a little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. Well, that's an improvement. No, it's not an improvement because now I've got a grey hue all over myself. Yeah, moving it up, moving it up, moving it up. And then the brightness. Yeah, yeah. Now I've gone really dark. So it's kind of hard to get this just right. And now I'm looking a bit of a funny colour. I tried moving my lights around a bit, but I don't seem to be getting rid of it. I've got this other colour light on this side. That doesn't really help. So that's probably the best I can do right now. And, yeah, like I say, I'm not really sure why this is such a problem now. And my mic is over here. So, yeah, so I'm looking a bit of a funny colour. Yeah, so I'll definitely try and improve the setup. I need to tidy my room a bit so I can get some space behind me so that I can get the green screen an even colour. As you can see here, it's like darker over this side, brighter up here. Yeah, I think it's going to take some time to figure it out. But in this light, I can see that it's the top left, this bit up here where it's too light. I think it's probably because I have a light shining sort of down from this angle, and then on this far side I haven't really got anything. But yeah, so sorry about the poor lighting. I'll try and fix it for the next time, and hopefully I'm not going to spill my tea here. I'm just going to move it out the way. There we go. And maybe something as well is reflecting a bit off the green screen. Maybe it's just too close. Right, let's get going. So yes, we got to the point last time where we had the credit card, we do edit, and we've got a dashboard link here and an admin link here, and then we can add all the cards we like in the bottom area here. I'm just going to close this. So I think the next step really then is, as a player, I want to be able to purchase a deck of cards, and the deck will be made up of the different deck themes. So we've got Angels, Paladins, Demons, Undead, and then we've got the rarities: rare, epic, legendary, insane. So I think step one is on the dashboard we'll have a button here which says purchase decks, or purchase cards. Technically, they're decks of cards. Purchase decks. I'll call it purchase decks. So now we're going to do some work on the dashboard. So I don't think we need this H1 here anymore. It's a bit large. On the admin, we've got just this small one here, then the underline. So I think we'll do the same thing. That's probably like an H4, I guess. And then we'll do an HR underneath. Like that. How's that? Yeah, that's a lot easier to work with. And then I think we'll just have some buttons. So let's have a look at Bootstrap at the buttons. So how should I lay these buttons out? Well, I think at the moment it doesn't really matter too much where I put them, as long as they're on the screen. Probably have maybe put it inside a panel or something, or maybe not. No, I'll just start simple. We'll just have a button to start with. So inside the div here we'll have an li. Oh, I know what we can have. There's a is it a list group? I can have a list group with buttons, maybe. That's an active list group. Disable links and buttons. Or flush. That looks quite interesting. This doesn't really fit very well. No, I think I'll just have a plain button. Okay, so I'll make a div, and here we'll put a button. So this is going to be the button that says purchase decks. And again, these names aren't set in stone, they're just something to be a placeholder. Okay, so I need some classes on this. So we'll have a button, primary maybe. Should be dark blue button. So purchase decks. So we'll click this, and I think this will now take us over onto a deck purchase screen. So let's go and make a new page called purchase. Or should I call it shop? I'm going to call it shop. This is a component shop. Hey, who's being too helpful? Render fun. Render HTML. Here we go. This is going to be an awesome shop. So we'll do a div. And inside the div we'll have a H4. So as well, I mean, I could just put this link on the top nav instead of having it as a button, or I can put it in both places. I'm going to call this purchase decks, and then we'll have an HR underneath it. Okay, so when we create this shop component, we need to add a root. So let's call this one shop. And in the shop we need a record like dashboard. This will be called shop. This will be our shop component. The beautifier is not enabled. Alright. Now we will go and list out what we need to see on the screen. So I think when you arrive on purchase decks. Oh yes, let's make a link. So when you're on the dashboard, we'll just make this, I'm going to make it an A with an href, because we don't really need a specific special action. This can just be a link to shop. Okay, shop. So we could do with having the top nav in the shop. This is shop. That's why I think shop could be good up here. Yeah, let's go top nav and add in a shop. So we've got admin dashboard. I'm going to put it after dashboard, and we're going to call this shop. 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 And is that all we need? It is, in fact, all we need. So purchase decks. So here I think we'll have a theme. So each deck has its own theme. So we'll have angels, paladins, undead, demons, and then within each of those decks we could have underneath the rarity, so you could choose your deck, choose your rarity, and then choose the number of decks that you want to purchase. Yeah, we'll try that. So I think as well I'll just do these as 3 separate cards. This kind of card, and maybe we'll have no image to start with, but then here you can have stuff in the body, header, footer. Actually, something a bit like this would be appropriate, I think. And it could be a component, I guess, because it's not going to have much difference apart from the rarity, the deck, and the number of packs that you want to purchase. So I think I could just make it a component. I'm going to call it deck purchase. Deck purchase. And here we'll have a render which will return HTML, and we'll paste our feature in here, and then we'll have a few properties, I think. So the first will be the deck type, which is going to be a string, and then we'll have a property of rarity. Will we have a rarity? I think rarity will probably just be a drop down, and you just choose your rarity, and then we'll have a drop down for the number of decks that you want to purchase. So deck type is probably the only thing we need to put in here, and I think this feature will just become deck type. And then in the body here we'll have some words. It's always good to have words. And this is going to be along the lines of purchase decks from the deck type theme. And then what does supporting text look like? Yeah, supporting text can just say something like each deck contains 30 cards, of which 5 are guaranteed to be of the selected rarity. So here we're basically saying you can have purchase a deck of 30 cards, and we're guaranteeing 5 of those are going to be whichever rarity you select. There may be more, there may be a lot of common cards, and there may be more than 5 of the rarity, but you'll get at least 5, I think. Okay, we don't need a button, so now we should be looking good on the purchase text page. Okay, so let's add in the component, the deck purchase component. So we've got here a deck purchase, and we're going to pass in the deck type, which is going to be Angels. Where is, oh yes, the problem here, closing tag of div on this div. Oh yes, we need to close this deck pit. Oh, I spelt it wrong as well. Deck purchase. So now things are looking good. Oh, we don't want it to say deck type. Why does it say deck type? Well, yes, I see. I put some double quotes. Come on, I put double quotes. What's your problem? I lost the slash. I didn't use the slash, did I? Shop mint line 10. Shop mint line 10. Deck purchase Angels slash the div. That's the open div. Close that. Close that. Close. Looks okay to me. I was looking for a command named deck purchase. I could not find it. Maybe I misspelled it. I did misspell it. Oh my goodness. Right, all good. Angels. Purchase decks from the Angels theme. Each deck contains 30 cards. Okay, awesome. So now we need a form, and we're going to show a drop down, and we're going to be able to select a rarity and a number of decks. So in our admin we already had some handling for drop downs. Let's go find those. Yeah, so we've got on rarity, which we're going to need, and we just did that by having a state of rarity. And then here we will have a success response, an error response, we've got a render, then we've got some button action, here is the select deck options, and here's the rarity options. So I think these rarity options are going to be reusable they're using rarity here, which is a property. It's part of the state. And we're using further down here we've got opt. So these are all passed in. Current selector's passed in. Everything's passed in. So that's awesome. So I think we could just borrow these two parts and abstract them out where we can use them into a common place. So purchase decks will now have somewhere that we can have common code. So I think I have a common module here. So let's put these in here. And rarity, this is going to have to be a function now. And it's going to have to take the rarity, which is a rarity is currently, what is it? I think it's a string. Let's just check. Rarity is a string. So that should be fine. Pass in the rarity, string, and render select option. It doesn't have any dependencies. Yes, we're all good here. So I think the first thing is to change the admin panel. And we'll get rid of our options, our rarity options here, and this render select option. So I think we can ditch those and replace this with a common render select, and somewhere we use the select rarity. Okay, so that's going to be common. Is it compiling? Not quite. Common select rarity options. 464. What's your problem? Function string array HTML. Oh yes, rarity options. Rarity options takes the rarity. Okay, all good. Let's go admin. Check that rarity is still good. It's all good. Okay, so now in the shop we're going to be able to add the select to take a rarity, and it's just going to be, I think we're going to have the same form group that we have on the admin. So straight after this P we'll put a form, and I think on admin the top of this form is a field set. So we'll take the field set and we'll use that here. Field set div form group div select div, and I think this div lines up with that div, so I think the field set ends here. And are we compiling? Not really. What does it say? Closing tag div found. One div, two div, one div. Oh, this div is in the wrong place. I should move this field set up a level. On rarity. So on rarity, again, this is something which is very similar to the on function we have up here on rarity, and I think we're just setting a particular thing. Well, yeah, I'm just going to take this one and copy it because it's more relevant to the space we're working in. Well, we could do reuse here, but it doesn't seem like it's worth it. So state rarity is a string defaulting to that. So are we all good? We are all good. Amazing. Here we go, rarity. So you choose a rarity, let's say legendary. And the next step is to choose how many decks you want to purchase. Which seems like it's gonna be another select. Here we go. Input, select amount. This is the number of decks to buy, and the ID is select number of decks. And now we need some select number of decks options. And we don't need to pass anything in there, and this won't be common. This will just be inside this function. So it's going to be pretty similar to this, actually. And I think we're going to have them in blocks. So what do I call this? Select number deck options. Select number deck options. You don't need to pass anything. And we're going to have, let's say you can buy one deck. You could buy 5 decks. You could buy 10. You could buy 20. You could buy 30. 1, 10, 30, 50, 100. That's how many different deck options we've got. And this here is going to have a new state called state of number decks, which will be I'm going to make it a string, and then we'll put this in here. So now we should have an extra drop down. Yes, it doesn't have the correct select yet, so we'll just put this in here, and now we should have, oh no, we've got an error. Select number of decks 21. Not quite the right thing there. Render select option takes an option and a number of decks, and this should be common, I guess. Select number decks options. Line 68 in deck purchase. Line 68. Select number decks options. I think this select number of decks options is a fun, but I think it could be a get. Yes, all good. So 1's a default. I can purchase up to 100. So let's say I want angels, I want epic, and I want 20 decks of epic angels. Sounds good. Okay, now we need a button. So So we can go ahead and do the purchase. I will put a button. Now where does it go on admin? Just drop down the bottom here. So I just put the buttons before the field set. And these are drop downs, so there's not really a lot that can go wrong here. Essentially, you're just selecting things, so I think it's fine just to put the button down here. We don't need to disable this button. On click, we do need something here, and we're going to call this purchase deck or purchase decks, and the value is just going to be hard coded as buy. So now we should have hey, no, we've got an error here. But, oh yes, purchase decks. We haven't done this yet. Let's create this function, purchase decks. We'll just stick it here. So this will be a fun purchase decks. It returns a promise never void, and we'll just return promise never right now. So here we go. We should now have less of a problem. Scroll down. What's the compiler saying? Purchase decks function promise never void. Okay, yes. So the other thing about this is it needs to take an event, which is a HTML event. We good? All good. That's awesome. So now we can buy our cards. So we got to choose the rarity, choose the number of decks, and then we're good. Yeah, I like a bit of green tea. It keeps me awake. So when I click buy, we are just going to go and purchase the deck, the rarity, number of decks. So we'll make a call to the back end. The back end will record the purchase, and it will also generate the number of cards that we've asked for. And the same thing, after it's generated them, we'll be able to go back to the dashboard and we'll be able to see my collection of all the cards that you own. So if I choose Angels and I say Epic and I say we want to buy 10 decks of hey, what happened to my Epic there? Yeah, something not quite right there. My rarity got reset. Why did that happen? Select number of deck options. Number of decks and rarity, they're two states. Number of decks is the select here. Purchase. Okay, so we've got input rarity, rarity, on rarity. Ah, yes, I see. We should have an on decks change here. That's why it's not doing as I expect. So on number decks, and this will set the number of decks to the value. So number of decks. So now we should have fixed that little issue. So I'll take Epic, I'll take 20 decks of Epic. We'll buy those, and then the user will have those associated with their user account. So in admin, at the moment, we've only got one existing card that we've added. So we're going to have to add or generate a number of different cards here that we can purchase. And we need at least 100 from each deck. So I think I'll auto-generate a huge stack of cards here for each of these different themes. And just to remember the themes here, we'll have the angels, the demons, and the paladins, and also the undead. And I think it's fair to just right now randomly guarantee 5 of each. And right now we'll just place 5 and then the rest will auto-generate. But in the real game, once we get the mechanics worked out, we'll probably have a boundary, so you can say between 5 and X amount. So that means we should really have a chance of getting more than 5 of the selected rarity. So I think we'll just start with one endpoint for the buy. So in the deck purchase, we'll need a very similar thing to that we already have down here on the button action. So that's a button action save or update. Not that, not this. Yeah, do edit cards. That's an example of what we need. We need that in deck purchase. I'm going to put it at the top here. So this would be do purchase decks. And we need to send the deck. We don't need any of this stuff. We need the rarity, and we need the quantity, which is number of decks. So that will give us enough there to. So this is more about decks. This is decks data will encode decks. Then we'll make a post to API decks in a minute. Yeah, some nice tea. Encode decks, and then we'll take this decks data, post it to API decks. If the response is good, do those things. Otherwise, let's go to success response. And really, once we've bought some decks, I think we'll just drop back to this main page, and the user can decide to go to their collection, or they can stay here and buy more decks. So on the success response, what do we do? Not a lot really. I think we just really want to do a promise, never void, and we'll potentially just clear out the selections. Yeah, let's just clear out the selection. We're going to get a return response, so maybe we should pause that. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to success response from admin. Well, let's take error response first. Okay, so this takes a response and it decodes the message, associates that admin error. So I think this thing could also just be common, because we're not really doing anything particularly specific here. We just need also to pass in the container, which would be a string. So I think we'd have here a container. Don't know how this will work with next, actually. We may have to pass in a callback for this to work, because this might be treated as a literal and not as something passed in. Yes, I've got a feeling that you can't pass in that. I think you'd have to pass in the 3 cases. Well, not 3 cases. Oh yes, I think you would have to pass in the 3 cases. Because next, inside of this body in this scope, I think next will automatically look for the state, and it'll look in the local place for the state. I don't think we can pass the state that easily. Yeah. So we'll not do this. We will, in fact, just take the error and success response. This is fun error response. Don't we have one? Oh, it's a get. No? Where is it? Did I copy it out? What did I do with it? I must have pasted it out. I did. Okay, so we'll not cut it. We'll just move a copy of it. Do purchase DEX. So this is going to be purchase error. Let's be a string. And yeah, this is be purchase error. Here we go. And we'll put the error message somewhere in a moment. Right, let's do our success. Some more tea. Okay, success response. We, on a valid response, I think we don't need the callback. We're just going to is there anything to parse from the back end? I think not really. I think we'll just have like an OK. Yeah. And then here we'll just do a next. I think actually there's hardly anything to do here. So purchase error we'll just set to nothing. I don't think we need to catch anything here because we're not doing anything. We're not really benefiting from sequence here. Yeah, there's really not a lot to do here. We'd basically just be setting rarity and the amount of decks, number of decks, and just back to their original states, I think. Oops. Is it happy? Yes, okay, so now on the request, we need deck, rarity and quantity in a record. Record deck purchase request is going to have deck, which would be a string, rarity, which would be a string, and quantity, which would also be a string at the moment. Is that good? Almost. Deck is decks. Yes, so we don't currently. Oh yes, deck type is what we want. Deck is deck type. Okay, so what's this? Deck purchase 65. Do clear. Yeah, so we don't have a clear, but essentially clear is resetting, is the same as success response really. So I should just really rename success response as do clear. Oh, but it takes a response. Well, I'm actually calling do clear in a function, so I don't really need to do this. This should be sufficient. Right, 66. Admin error. Yes, this should be purchase error. Okay, all good. So now if we look at the inspector on the network, we should be able to say buy. Oh, we didn't hook up the new purchase decks onto the actual button. On click purchase decks. What does it do? Purchase decks. Oh yes, we can get rid of that now. Replace it with this one. Okay, so now we should end up with a post going to API decks with angels, no quantity, no rarity. So why don't we have a quantity and a rarity? Maybe it's because I need to set defaults here. Let's check this one. That's it. Okay, so we need to default the rarity to rare and number of decks to 1. Let's reload that. So I say legendary and 5, send it, it's off. And yeah, that's the front end work for the angels part. And the other deck themes will be identical. We'll just reuse the template and we'll send through the deck, the quantity and the rarity, and then we'll generate them on the back end. Let's move to the back end. So now we're going to have I'll put it after card. So this will be a post API decks. Did I call it decks or deck? Decks. Do context. Oops. So we want to be logged on for sure. And then we want to do some parameter stuff. We're going to receive a UI purchase decks. So we go to UI, let's call it purchase decks. UI purchase decks. And here we go, UI purchase decks. And what's it going to be having here? Deck, rarity and quantity. Okay, awesome. So now we're going to purchase these decks. And we'll get a UI decks back. Okay, so now the fun part. So once we get our deck information, we want to generate the cards, the 30 card, well, the number of decks that we purchased. So we probably need some deck repo. So for each user, a user will have a deck, a quantity, or the other thing we could do is we could just generate the deck cards, and then we could have a map for each type of deck. So like it could be angels, and in the map we could have a list of each deck, and each deck would be 30 cards, and they'd have the auto generated rarity. And yeah, I think that would work. So a map of rarity of deck to cards. But would we want to know? Would we want to keep the knowledge of the deck's rarity? Probably not. The fact that we purchased it and got some rare cards, they all just end up in the collection to be filtered anyway, so I think we don't care. So I think having just the deck and then an array of cards for each deck. Do I even need multiple arrays? Maybe it's just one array. So for angels, maybe I just see all of the cards that I can have for angels, and the card itself will know its rarity. Yeah, I think so. So right now in the DB domain, a card, it knows its rarity and its deck. So probably I just want to generate a whole load of cards. So once I've got my mapping of those things, I need one per user. So this is going to tell me all of the cards that a user has by theme, by deck theme. But even then, is that important? Do I need to store them by theme? I can always just filter them. So it's more like, in fact, do I need to generate even these cards? I think I just need to choose from a list of cards that are already available. Because if I go and add, say, 100 different cards in the admin panel, and I've got 50 which are angel cards, then I can just really look in the cards repo and say, give me 30 angels of rarity common, or give me 25 of rarity common, and then give me 5 of rarity epic or legendary, or whatever the rarity is. I think that could work. Yeah, I think that could work. So really, the user just needs to know the IDs of the cards that they have in a list, I think. So for my user, at the moment, I've got user ID. So maybe I'll just make like a join table of user ID to card. And then every time we buy a card, we can figure out all of the card IDs that the user owns. Yeah, I think I'll do that. So I'll have a user card repo. Yeah, I think that's the thing to do. Okay, let's just go over here. Let's see. Repo. So I wonder if we should start with a spec. Yeah, let's start with a spec. So we need a card. Well, it's more like a user card repo. User card repo. So we'll need some of this. This will be user card repo. So we do need a card repo. DB connection, and then we will insert a relationship for the user and the card. So what we'll do here is we're going to need to populate some users and some cards for this to work. Insert relationship user in the card. So if we have a whole stack of cards already in the card repo, then really we're just going to be saying user card repo insert, and we're going to be giving it the user ID, which means we also need the user, which means we're going to have to create a user like this. Probably one user is enough, which means we'll also need the user repo here. Repo.new db.connection. So we don't need to test that really, and we're using email. We'll just inline that here. As long as it's a success, it's fine. We've got a user. It should be user result. Okay, so we've got a user. We'll have to add some cards. Then we'll say user card repo insert, and we'll put here the so let's get a user, which will be user result value as user, and we'll need the ID, and we'll need the cards. So I don't know whether it's better to do single insert, so for each card we'll do an insert, or whether it's better just to generate an array and push the array into the document. I think we'll just iterate the inserts for now in the prototype because it's straightforward. But later on we may choose to do this in a more performant way. So then we just have a card relationship. This would be the card ID. And we'd have to enumerate this. So if we're associating 10 of the same cards, we would have 10 entries. Or we could just put a quantity here. So this card ID, this user, this quantity. Yeah, I like the idea of quantity here. So we'll insert for this user this card at this quantity. Yeah. But I still need to go and auto-generate a whole stack of data. Okay, well, I'm feeling pretty exhausted now, so I think that's probably my limit for this evening. Hopefully I'll get some good sleep tonight, and then tomorrow I'll continue with this. So the next steps for this are, let's get my pad up here a second. Let's create a new note. So here we're going to, this is the purchase decks, some tasks. So the first task is to generate card data with random with a set of cards for each deck and rarity. We'll have to do that. And then we also have to once we've generated that, when we select the card, okay, so we need to write the code for the insert user cards and finish specs for insert user cards. So once we've done these pieces of work, we should have a set of cards. We'll be able to choose the rarity and the number of cards, and it will make an insert for the quantity and the rarity for that user. We also have to take care of the minimum number. So we'll just choose min 5 for the rarity. Okay, so that's good. What's after that? Not a lot, I think. That will give us, for a given user, it will give us their collection of cards. So then we will want to go and do the collector's deck, which will just list out all of these cards, probably in a table for now. And after that, we will take the number of cards and have the deck building option. Okay, so I think in another few nights, we're going to be pretty close to having the whole sort of deck purchase and view it in the collectors and build your deck that you can play with done. And then the next stage after that